Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a role that's, well, it's become absolutely crucial in the modern job market, the sourcing specialist.
Hmm.
If you've noticed that finding talent is changing fast, you're spot on. And this job, it's right at the center of that shift.
And the demand is just,
Hmm,
wow. The source we're diving into today points out a staggering 33% increase
33%.
just over the last year. That number alone tells you how strategically important sourcing has become.
Wow, yeah, 33% jump is huge. So, okay, our source for this deep dive is an article that's really gone deep itself. It lays out 60 specific interview questions,
Hmm.
all designed to, really evaluate candidates for this exact position.
It's almost like a blueprint, isn't it, for understanding what skills, what behaviors, even what personality traits truly matter.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack these questions, figure out the why behind them,
Yeah.
and pull out the key insights into what makes a sourcing specialist not just good, but really great. This deep dives is for you, whether you're on the hiring side trying to find these essential folks, or maybe you're just curious about jumping into this incredibly dynamic field yourself.
Okay, so let's start with the context a bit. Why is this role evolving so rapidly? The source points to how technology, I mean, everything from AI tools to advanced data analytics and, of course, the explosion of remote work, they've fundamentally changed how talent is found. It's no longer just about posting a job and sorting resumes, not at all.
Right. It's shifted from reactive to proactive, really.
Right.
It's about strategically identifying potential talent where they might be, engaging them in a really thoughtful way, and constantly optimizing those strategies
Yeah,
to genuinely meet the organization's needs, not just, fill a job opening.
that strategic piece is key.
And that strategic shift is exactly what these interview questions are designed to uncover, isn't it?
Yeah.
They probe not just what you've done, but how you think, how you adapt, strategize.
Precisely. And to get at that, the article breaks down the questions into three core categories: general, behavioral, and personality. Think of them as maybe different lenses to view a candidate through.
Okay, so the first lens, general questions.
Yeah.
That feels like the foundation, right? It's about understanding a candidate's standard operating procedure, their basic approach, how they keep their skills sharp in a field that's just always changing.
Exactly. They want to know, how candidates stay updated on the latest strategies and tools because the tech moves so incredibly fast. A real insight here is that the successful ones aren't just using current tools.
Yeah.
They're actively exploring new ones. Maybe even dipping their toes into emerging AI sourcing applications, things like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Staying still means falling behind, definitely.
Yep.
The source also talks about measuring effectiveness, their own effectiveness. It's not enough just to say you sourced candidates. You need to know if they were qualified, right?
Yeah.
What your conversion rates look like, time to fill.
And crucially, the quality of hire down the line. Metrics are basically non-negotiable now.
Okay, so metrics are key.
Yeah, and the article gives examples of what strong answers look like here. For measuring effectiveness, it's not just listing metrics. It's talking about how they use analytics tools to track these numbers, and then critically, how they adapt their strategy based on what the data tells them.
So using the data.
For instance, if the data shows referrals lead to higher quality hires, well, a data-driven sourcer doubles down on referral programs. Makes sense.
Got it. So it's about being data informed, not just data aware. That's a good distinction. And how they approach sourcing different roles seems key too. The source emphasizes looking for candidates who show a systematic but adaptable method. They don't use a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. Tailoring the strategy is absolutely crucial. Sourcing for a, let's say, highly technical engineering role requires a totally different approach than sourcing for an executive leadership position. And a strong candidate, they can articulate those differences and why they matter.
Okay, so that gives us the picture of their standard playbook, how they keep it updated. But what happens when the playbook isn't enough? How do they handle unexpected challenges or, tricky situations?
Right.
That's where the behavioral questions become essential, I imagine.
This is where you really see how they operate under pressure, how they solve problems, interact with others in, real-world scenarios. The insight here, and it's a classic one, is that past behavior is often the best predictor of future performance.
Okay, give me an example from the source, like how they handle a role that's just incredibly difficult to fill.
Yeah, that's a classic one. The article suggests asking something like, tell me about a time you struggled to fill a role. What you're listening for in the answer is perseverance, creativity, a willingness to try different proactive outreach methods when the usual channels just aren't cutting it.
So resilience.
It's about resilience and that problem-solving grit.
Grit is huge in sourcing, I bet.
Yeah.
What about engaging passive candidates, the people who aren't actively looking? That seems like a whole different skill set.
Yeah, it absolutely is. The source highlights asking about a time they successfully engaged a passive candidate, and a really good answer. It'll involve more than just sending some standard in-mail message.
Right.
It shows deep research into that specific person's career path, their interests, maybe their motivations, and then crafting a highly personalized message based on that research. The insight here is that effective passive sourcing. It's truly a form of targeted sales and relationship building.
That's a great way to put it. Connection, not just contact.
Yeah.
Interesting. The article also touches on managing multiple projects simultaneously. How do they assess that?
Well, they ask candidates how they prioritize when juggling, many roles at once. The source suggests looking for answers that mention using project management tools or specific techniques, and prioritizing based on factors like urgency, strategic importance to the business, or maybe the complexity of the role.
So having a system.
It shows they have a system, yeah. Not just chaos.
And they bring up other things too, like sourcing for niche roles or international roles.
Yeah.
Dealing with difficult hiring managers.
Stakeholders.
Stakeholders, right, and even incorporating D&I initiatives, diversity and inclusion.
Exactly. And each of those scenarios tests a different facet of their ability, like adapting strategy for different markets, or navigating complex relationships with strong communication, or demonstrating a real commitment to building diverse teams. These behavioral questions, they force candidates to provide concrete examples.
So it reveals their actual skills in action.
That's the idea.
Okay, so we've looked at their process. That's the general questions and how they handle specific situations, the behavioral ones. But what about the human element? Sourcing involves so much communication, relationship building, and dealing with potential setbacks.
Oh, absolutely.
That brings us to the third category, personality questions.
Yeah, and these might seem, softer, but the source makes it really clear they are absolutely crucial for long-term success and, frankly, well-being in the role. It's about assessing those underlying traits that enable someone to actually thrive.
Like handling pressure and deadlines. I can imagine that gets pretty intense.
Oh, definitely. So the source suggests questions that reveal how candidates stay calm, how they stay focused under pressure. Are they prioritizing effectively? Do they have structured plans? Are they maintaining clear communication when things get hectic? The insight is that resilience isn't just about enduring stress,
Right.
but having actual mechanisms to navigate it effectively.
And patience and persistence. That must be vital, especially for those super niche, hard-to-find roles.
Absolutely critical. The article mentions questions that look for that determination even when facing scarcity, when there just aren't many candidates. A strong answer might involve talking about extensive research, maybe creative networking, and just refusing to give up easily. The insight, maybe, is that top sourcers have a certain level of, let's call it productive stubbornness.
Productive stubbornness. I like that. That captures it. Staying motivated despite setbacks is another one mentioned. You're going to face rejection in this job, surely.
It's just part of the territory. So the source looks for candidates who can reframe challenges, see them as learning opportunities maybe, who aren't afraid to seek support from colleagues, and who understand the importance of self-care to prevent burnout.
So a healthy approach.
It shows they have a healthy approach to dealing with adversity, yeah.
And attention to detail. That seems obvious, but probably crucial for things like data integrity and compliance.
Critically important, especially in, say, regulated industries or when maintaining accurate records in an ATS. That's the applicant tracking system, the software used to manage candidates.
Right, the ATS.
The article highlights looking for candidates who emphasize meticulous review, cross-referencing, double-checking their work. The insight here is that detail isn't just about neatness. It's foundational to accuracy and compliance. Can't mess that up.
No, definitely not. Building rapport and relationships with candidates, hiring managers, everyone involved, that feels huge.
It is. It really is. The source emphasizes that questions in this area should reveal strong interpersonal skills, active listening, open communication, and a genuine focus on understanding the unique needs and expectations of everyone they interact with.
So empathy too.
Yeah, the insight is that great sourcing is really built on trust and genuine connection.
So these personality questions, they really dig into the soft skills then. How they navigate conflicting priorities, their creative thinking process, how they handle confidential info, manage high volume without quality dropping, how they handle rejection gracefully,
Adapting communication styles.
adapting communication styles for different people, different cultures, yeah. Their commitment to continuous learning, making tough decisions.
And that constant balancing act between speed and quality.
It's a lot to cover, but it paints a really comprehensive picture, doesn't it?
It really does. Interviews covering that general approach, behavior, and personality, they give you a deep understanding of who a candidate is and how they operate. But the source also introduces another important layer to the hiring process. Skill assessments.
Ah, okay. So going beyond just talking about it and seeing them actually do it?
Exactly that. The article positions skill assessments as a really valuable addition because they offer objective, measurable insights, hard data. They can help reduce bias by providing a standardized evaluation. They validate the claims a candidate makes on their resume or in the interview.
Makes sense.
And most importantly, perhaps, they ensure job fit by testing specific, verifiable technical and analytical abilities.
So concrete evidence, what kinds of assessments does the source mention?
Two main types come up. First, sourcing simulations.
Emulations.
Yeah, these replicate real-world sourcing scenarios. They test a candidate's problem-solving under pressure, their creativity in finding candidates, and their actual proficiency with various sourcing tools and techniques in a practical setting. It's kind of like a test flight.
Okay, a test flight. And the second type?
Technical assessments. These are more focused on specific tools or skills. So evaluating proficiency with a particular ATS, testing their ability to use Boolean search techniques effectively.
Ah, the A&Ds and ORs.
Exactly. That logic to refine online searches. Assessing their data analysis skills, maybe, or their command of social media sourcing platforms. These could take the form of tasks, quizzes, or even short coding exercises sometimes, depending on the role.
Got it. So by adding assessments, you move from just understanding their stated approach and past actions to actually seeing their capabilities demonstrated in real time, sort of.
Right. It provides that extra layer of objective data to complement the, let's say, subjective insights you get from the interview itself.
Okay, so bringing this all back to you, the listener, understanding these different dimensions, how a candidate approaches the work generally, how they've tackled real challenges in the past, their underlying personality traits that enable success in this very relationship-heavy role, and finally, their verifiable technical skills through assessments. It gives you a complete framework, really. It moves beyond just, liking a candidate to truly evaluating their potential to not just survive, but to actually excel as a sourcing specialist in today's complex landscape.
Yeah, this deep dive into the article's framework, it really highlights that success in modern sourcing requires this quite intricate blend. Strategic thinking, behavioral resilience, those crucial personality traits, and technical savvy. It's a really multifaceted role now.
Definitely. So considering how quickly the sourcing landscape is changing, the constant evolution of technology, new work models popping up, and that huge jump in demand we started with, here's a thought to leave you with. How might this essential blend of necessary skills balancing that technology proficiency with the critical behavioral and personality traits, how might that continue to shift in the coming years? What new dimensions might hiring managers, or even you if you're on this path, need to consider to really stay ahead in talent acquisition?